I'm Mike. Hello, everyone. I'm using this slide to set the expectations for the quality of pictures you will see. Like Jordan said, I've started 3 companies. I've been the founder of 3 companies, all raised venture capital money, all got to product market fit, and were eventually acquired. I'll get into them in a little bit. I also worked at Airbnb for 4 years. I joined when it was 400 people and left when it was 9,000 people, so it was quite a journey. For the last 4 years, I'm a startup coach and advisor. I work with founders of startups, and it's been really a great 4 years. And also, like you all, I live here in Marin, Sonoma. I have an awesome wife, 2 awesome kids, and 2 dogs that are tearing our lives apart. They're 2 Malinois puppies, and they're destroying my life a little bit. All right, let me take you on a quick journey before we get started. Back to 1998. I was 20 pounds lighter and living in the 90s. I was a junior at Dartmouth College, and there's 2 things I was doing in my life. 1, I was eating a ton of chicken quesadillas. 2, I was spending all my time in this windowless computer lab called Sudikoff Lab, coding and doing stuff all the time in that lab. It didn't take long for me to find a way to merge my 2 worlds where I could order chicken quesadillas on the computer. And this is in Hanover, New Hampshire, so being the genius that I am, it became Hanover Delivers. And so Hanover Delivers allowed people to order food online. This is 1998. None of the restaurants in Hanover had websites, or you couldn't order food from them. So me and a group of friends, we made websites for every restaurant, made it so you could order food, and they would deliver, and we would charge them at the end of the month for all the deliveries they did, and we made money in our sleep, and I bought a ton more chicken quesadillas. So that was going really well. Fast forward to my senior year when I was about to graduate, I got a call from some alumni in Manhattan at Morgan Stanley, and they say, "We love Hanover Delivers, we love what you've done there. Can you come down and do this in Manhattan? We would love to order food online while we're working late in the investment banks." And I was super flattered, but I was also pretty stupid. And I said, no. Life gave me this choice of starting this really cool company or taking a cushy job somewhere else. And I took the cushy job and didn't do it. 2 years later, Grubhub said, we're going to do exactly that same thing. So did Seamless and some others. And then a little bit later, they were acquired for $7 billion. So I bring this up because, like I said, I've started 3 companies. I've seen a lot of cool things. And I've made some good choices. But this is just a warning to you all. I'm kind of an idiot sometimes, and I can be stupid. So you've been warned. With that being said, let's jump into this. All right. Let me take you now to 2006. I'm living in Washington, D.C. This is my co-founder, Toby, and I sitting on his front porch. And we started this company called Cloud, with a Q. What is Cloud? Well, first of all, people have said all my startups sound like IKEA furniture. And that is true, but also just a coincidence. Even though I love IKEA, I don't know how that happened. Cloud was a music service, on-demand, unlimited streaming. I'll get into it, but our first raise, we really wanted to raise money to start this company, and we pitched to over 40 VCs, and they all said, no, not happening. We don't like it. Basically, our last pitch was to this guy. This is Steve Case, the founder of AOL and a billionaire, and luckily, he brought his son, Everett, to the pitch, who's 18 and was super into music. And Steve goes, oh, wow, you're into music? I like music too. All right, let's do it. So he gave us a pretty crappy term sheet for a couple $1 million, but we were off and running, and Toby and I got to work. That was the first picture. If I go back one slide, we're on the porch. So I was in my 20s, single. I left my apartment, moved into Toby's basement. Toby's married with 3 kids, and I'm living in the suburbs in Toby's basement. This is a Jerusalem cricket. For those of you who've never seen a Jerusalem cricket, they are huge and they look like aliens, and Toby's basement was infested with Jerusalem crickets. So we would wake up, we'd work, we'd have lunch in his kitchen, we'd work some more, I'd have dinner with the family, they would do family stuff, I'd go back into the basement and work some more, and I remember sitting in that basement on my single bed in the unfinished basement with my Jerusalem crickets thinking, being a startup founder can be the loneliest job in the world. It is really rough. But we persevered, we built a pretty cool product, and fast forward, we got to product market fit, and I'll explain that in a second. We then got into a bidding war with MTV and Universal Music, and we were eventually acquired, and we moved to LA. This is Toby with the founder of this company, BuzzNet, that acquired us, and our whole team moved to LA. One of our employees threw a party when we got to LA, and it was this huge party, and we had just spent 2.5 years in the trenches building cloud, and it was one of the top music services in the world. And I remember leaving that party 2.5 years later thinking I totally had it wrong. Being a startup founder is actually the best way to build a family of people you love and you're going to be friends with for life. It's an incredible way to enrich your life with really awesome people. This is me with the founder of BuzzNet. You can really build a family that way. But you have to have awesome people. So how do you get awesome people? This is our team at Cloud in our office. You can see Steve Case is there. The guy with the pink shirt in the middle is Jim Bankoff. The guy behind him is a guy named Jim DiLorenzo. Let me just go through, we had a small team of 10 people, but it was an awesome team, like a murderer's row of awesome. Jim Bankoff is now the CEO of Vox Media. He's been that for 10 years. Our lawyer, Jim DiLorenzo, or actually, Tom Ryan was the founder of Pluto TV, and he's now head of Peacock Streaming. Our head of engineering, Pedro, got hired by Facebook after Cloud, was there for 12 years, and was the VP of engineering and security there for 12 years, and he's now the CTO at 1Password. Our lawyer is head of all of Apple Sports and was head of all of Amazon Sports after that. Our product manager, I didn't even put on this slide, is CEO of a DraftKings competitor. Our board member, Chris Blackwell, founded Island Records, discovered Bob Marley, discovered Bono, Lady Gaga, et cetera. So we had a small team, but it was just an incredible team of awesome. So how do you get to awesome? So I call it the circle of awesome. If I have any advice for my founders, this works really well, and let me explain it really quickly. If you're hiring for a role, let's say you're hiring a head of sales, head of engineering, a product manager, whatever. Let's say you're hiring a product manager. Here's what I would advise you to do. Go find 2 people who are great product managers. You could probably just go in this room and find 2 people who are awesome at whatever. So go to those 2 people, explain what you're doing, what you're hiring for, what your company is, ask them if they're interested. They're probably not. Say, great, you're not interested. Do you know 2 people who would be great at this job? They'll do, and they'll give you 4 people. They're 2 people, so now you have 4 people. Go to those 4, do the same thing. Explain your company, explain the role, what do they think, are they interested? If not, give me 2 people who you think would be great. If you do this repeatedly, you'll get to 12, 15 people. I guarantee you, if you get to 15 people, 2 or 3 will be interested in the role. Now, it takes a lot of work to talk to 15 people, but if you stay inside this circle of awesome, you will get great people in your company. And what I see people do instead is they get a job description, they throw it on LinkedIn, and they get 400 resumes of people who are mediocre, and they spend hours and hours of time interviewing people trying to find the best of the mediocre. It's the same amount of time, and I'd say stay inside the circle of awesome instead. All right, that was my first takeaway from Cloud. My second is this idea of riding the wave. I'm not a surfer, but I love to go to the beach and body surf and boogie board surf. I'm sure a lot of you are surfers. And you know that feeling when you're at the beach and you're body surfing or you're paddling to get the wave, and all that hard work of paddling stops and you start riding the wave, and the wave picks you up. And instead of paddling, you're just basically holding on for dear life, and you're going to go to the beach whether you want to or not. That happens with startups too. And this happened with Cloud and my other startups, where we all know this feeling where you're pounding on your startup. You're trying to get sales, you're trying to build the product, you're trying to hire people, and it's really hard, it really sucks. But if you catch a wave, it all gets easier. And we caught a wave, and it was the Facebook platform. So remember, this is 2006, 2007. And do you all remember when Facebook opened up their platform so you could spam the crap out of people with Farmville or LinkedIn competitors, et cetera? So that happened for us. We built a music app, and we built the top 1 or 2 music apps in the world, but this allowed us to grow from literally 1,000 users to millions of users. We grew to 10 million monthly users within 6 months, leveraging this wave. And instead of trying to get users and think about go-to-marketing, we were trying to figure out how to scale, how to hire more people, how to build our servers, and how to hold on for dear life. And I mention this wave because I hear a lot of people poo-poo AI. And they talk about the valuations are insane. But AI is a huge wave that's happening, and I'd advise anyone who's a founder here to think about how they can ride this wave, because there's a lot of attention, there's a lot of money, there's a lot of experimenting, and if you can align yourself to that attention and money, it will make things dramatically easier for your startup, or any wave. So that's one takeaway. Let's move on. So that was cloud. My second startup is Kapost, also sounds like IKEA furniture. When I was in my 20s, I did a music startup, and it was really sexy and really cool, and I moved to LA. By the time I got to Kapost, I got married and I had kids, and so I call it my boring dad startup. It's boring dad because it's marketing software. And marketing software, I'm sure you all know, is not that cool of a thing to talk about when you're at a dinner party. But let's talk about what it is. It started out kind of cool. We wanted to build something for media companies. The Huffington Post was all the rage, and we wanted to Huffington Post-ize other startups or other companies, and we sold to media companies, and it clearly wasn't working. And so we were trying to figure out what's the wave here, because media companies are shrinking, but there's something adjacent to media companies called content marketing. And for those of you who don't know what content marketing is, the idea is prior to content marketing, you'd rent users to look at your product. You buy Google ads, buy Facebook ads, but with content marketing, you can write blog posts, white papers, ebooks, and build an audience that you own. And this audience knows about you, cares about you, and you can eventually sell to them. And people were hiring journalists and investing in content marketing, and it was a really great wave to ride. And we caught that wave, we rode it, we raised some money from Floodgate and Salesforce Ventures and some Colorado investors, and eventually got acquired by Upland Software, which is a PE firm. And so that was an incredible ride as well. And so some of the takeaways I have is this was a big one. And I work with a lot of startup founders, and the idea that they have is similar to what we had is I want as much money as possible. I want to grow, 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 grow. And so we sold to everyone. B2B companies were interested in what we got, marketing agencies, B2C companies like Coke and Pepsi, and then startups. Everyone was doing content marketing, and we sold to everyone. But it was hard. It was a total mess. And so this concept of focusing and shrinking, sell to fewer people to go faster, is one thing I really learned. So we stopped selling to everyone. In fact, we focused on B2B. It wasn't just B2B. You had to have 3 things for us to even talk to you. You had to be a B2B business, you had to have at least 1,000 employees, and you had to have started a blog and know a little bit what content marketing is. If you didn't have those 3 things, we wouldn't even answer the phone. And because of that, our whole funnel got tighter. Our marketing message of who we were was clear. Our sales process of how we sold was much better. Our product roadmap changed to be just the things that these customers wanted. Our activation, onboarding, et cetera, got tighter. So our whole funnel got really tight. And instead of kind of cruising along, we accelerated. And so this concept, I really would want you to think about it, like shrinking your aperture to increase velocity really works. And so I see a lot of people, most founders think more money, more better. But it's not the case. It's just like focus, focus, focus. And the great companies that did this. Amazon just did books. Uber just did black cars. I mean, who else? Facebook just sold to Ivy League schools for a while until they got it right. So shrinking who you are and what you're doing will allow you to actually go faster. Okay, so after Kapost, I moved west. I came to here in Marin and worked at this startup called Air Bed and Breakfast. Airbnb was a great experience. I learned a ton there. But one thing that I remember from Airbnb is the end of it. I was sitting in a conference room, and my mother-in-law was just diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and my grandmother had just moved into an assisted living facility. And I was sitting there at Airbnb, and I was looking at our VR products, our AR products, and I was like, Amazon can deliver stuff to me in 2 hours with drones and all this. There's all this technology, but none of that exists for the older population. Some people call it silver tech, but nothing was there. And so after seeing my mother-in-law and grandma, I was like, I got to do something. And so I left Airbnb and started this company called Onward. And Onward is a rideshare network for seniors. If you want to get a ride for your grandparents or your parents, and you need someone to meet them at the door, to carry something, to wait with them in the waiting room, get them home safely, do whatever it takes, that's what Onward did. And it worked great. We were off and running, we had product market fit, and we were scaling. But I like to say that, or I like to joke that having a website that says, get seniors out of their homes is not what you want when the pandemic hits. And so we pivoted and we did all sorts of stuff from food delivery, prescription delivery, all sorts of stuff. But the only thing that really hit was medical transportation. People still needed to get to chemotherapy and dialysis and things like that. But our mission changed dramatically from servicing the whole population, and now we are a medical transportation provider. We were the best at this sliver of what they call sedan rides, and we were eventually acquired by a larger medical transportation provider that does ambulances, wheelchair vans, and all of it. The one takeaway I took from Onward is I had that, when I was sitting in that conference room at Airbnb, I knew I wanted to do with Onward, but I was pretty nervous, and I actually thought back to the 90s, if you remember Hanover Delivers, where I bailed on building a great company, and I was like, do I want to stay here at Airbnb and stay in a cushy, highly paid environment, or this feeling of like getting in the arena and actually getting off my ass and doing something? And I went left instead of right this time, and I've met incredible people, built a great service that's still around today. You can order Onward today, it's still up and running. And so this idea of getting off your ass it really worked for me. And I'd say, yeah, this life gave me a choice, and I finally went left. And I'd say one thing I think about AI, because it's relevant today, is who wins in the world of AI. We used to specialize in what we knew. The moat was your specialization, and now AI can answer the how for everything. It can tell you how to do everything. So specializing in something doesn't really work. The people who win are the people who have agency, or as I like to say, the people who get off their ass and experiment with AI, who learn how to use it, who can go fast and get great at it and do more and more and more with it. Those are the people who win in the world of AI. So today, I would say if you're not really that familiar with AI, you haven't used it that much, do it, because that is the people who are winning are going to be the people who know how to do it, or know how to use it and do that. Okay, I'll end you with this one last thought. At Airbnb, we surveyed the crap out of people. We really wanted to know how people use the service and what they thought. So we asked, what's the thing you hate most about Airbnb? And it came out the check-in experience. I'm sure if you've ever rented an Airbnb, you know what I'm talking about, where you just want to get in and use the apartment, and some guy is like, let me show you around this studio apartment. And they're like, here's the sink. Here's the light switch and how you turn it on and turn it off. And you're like, just give me the key and get out of here. But they really want to meet you. This happened to me. I took a trip to Barcelona. I landed at 10 p.m. I was exhausted. I was hungry. I was tired. I just wanted to get in my place. And this guy, Tomas, was like, no, I have to meet you. And you can't get in. I was like, I need to meet you to give you the key. And I was like, Jesus. So I met Tomas, and he did the whole thing. He's like, here's the light switches. Here's the bed, and here's where you sleep. And I was like, great. And it was just what you'd expect. So there's a flip side to this. We also asked Airbnb users what they liked the most. And the people who gave it 5 stars and raved, why did they give it 5 stars and why did they rave about it? Well, it's the flip side of this. They said they had an experience using Airbnb where they felt like they lived in the place. They built these relationships with people who were there, and they felt like a local. And this also happened to me. So with Tomas, I was so tired and exhausted, he finally said, hey, are you hungry? I said, actually, yeah, I'm starving. He pulled out his phone, and he dialed a number, and he said, come with me. And we left the apartment, we walked down to the street, we walked half a block, and then down these stairs into this, what seemed like an underground top secret lair. But it was actually this restaurant. We opened the door, and there's all these locals drinking and having a great time. And we moseyed up to the bar. The owner was a chef, and he brought me this Spanish meal that was super delicious. And they introduced me to some people who lived in the neighborhood. And I met all these locals, and they told me about these local sites I should go check out that weren't in any guidebook and what I should actually see. And so it was incredible, and it was probably one of the best trips to Europe I've ever had. So my point is, even though people are the worst, people are actually the best, too. And so I want to sum up with that. In closing, sort of to round it up, 1, I can be an idiot. 2, startups are hard and can be really lonely, but if you fill your team with really great people, it can be really awesome, but you have to stay in that circle. To do so, I'd advise you to think about the wave and find a wave. And if you're in a job at a big corporation or you're complacent, don't get too comfy, especially with AI and all the things that's coming down the pike with that. And finally, people are the worst, but they also are the best. And I bring that up because we're at a conference and there's hundreds of awesome people here. And I know it kind of can be tedious talking to more and more people, but like this is such a great community. And so I'll leave you with that. It's like we should all, like for the next couple hours, get off your ass and meet some great people. Thank you.